Vincent Lamb, and today I'm here with the cast and crew of Almost Home, which is one of the live-action short films which has been shortlisted for an Academy Award this year. So how cool. Congratulations, guys. And really nice that we've got like the whole cast with us today, and the writer and the producer. So I'll just to start with, I'll just get each of you just to introduce yourselves. So Niels, where are you? You're there, right? Let's start with you. Go ahead, Niels. Yeah.
Hi. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for having us. I'm Niels Keller, director and writer of Almost Home. And yeah, it's a great pleasure to be here with you today.
Great. Good to have you, Niels. And John. So, John.
I'm Jonas. I'm the producer.
Your name and who you are.
Okay, I think we'll lost you for 1 second. So yeah, I'm Jonas. I'm the producer.
And so Jeremias, right? Just introduce yourself and tell us who you play.
Hey, I'm Jeremias, and I play Jacob. Yeah, and I'm really happy to be here.
Good to have you. And Susanna.
Hi, my name is Susanne Wolf, and I was playing Nico, the mother, in Almost Home.
And Stefan.
Hello, I'm Stefan Kampwirt. Yes, Stefan Kampwirt, and I'm playing Tom, the father, and former father of Jonas, and the former husband of Susanne.
Right, and George, you're with us as well. You're the DOP, right?
Yes, Georg Nikolaus. I'm the director of photography.
Okay, great. Okay, good to have you all here. Yeah, I liked this film. It really kind of stood out for me. It's different, isn't it? It was one of the first ones I watched, actually, because the log line kind of just made it stand out, and I was like, I'll give that one a watch. So nice to see it here as one of the final 15. How did it feel, Niels, like when you saw Almost Home there as on the shortlist for the Academy Awards?
Intensely humbling, let's say. We dreamed of being there, but still you can't calculate with that. And it has already been a great journey going through the Student Academy Awards, being nominated there, receiving an award there, then being qualified for the Oscars, then making it to the shortlist right now. So this is all like a huge journey we never anticipated, and in a way, it's a big honor for me, but even more the whole team, that all this effort and the things we got through for this production are kind of seen and liked, and people find it relevant and are emotionally touched, it feels. So yeah, it's very humbling.
Right. Yeah, it's a heck of a journey, isn't it? But it starts to feel worthwhile when you get to this stage, I imagine, So to start with, just tell us a little bit about the film, and what kind of sparked the idea for you to tell this story. Why did you want to tell this story?
Yeah, it started with a newspaper article I read in April 2020 about a cruise ship where the people were stuck on board, not allowed to enter any country because of COVID fear. And this in the article was that actually a faction built on board of this ship that actively thought about, even if they were allowed to leave, if they should rather stay on board because it's safer there and the world got so crazy outside. And I thought, at first hand, this sounds stupid, or how do they want to stay on a cruise ship indefinitely or for 2 years? But then next I thought, maybe for every one of us, there's a line somewhere which is very personal between safety and freedom. And I thought, okay, maybe the coming 2 years, I didn't know that it's going to be 2 years, but the coming time will be about those decisions that we have to decide as a society, but also for our own, what we want to sacrifice for our safety.
Yeah, I remember that article. I remember hearing about that ship. And interesting, though, that you're right. You decided to set this in space in the future. Is that something that has always interested you? That setting, or to make a sci-fi? Or were you more interested in just using that as a backdrop to explore these themes and the characters, and that dilemma? Or is that a genre you're interested in, sci-fi?
Yeah, I'd say I'm really in love with genre itself and with the chances that are in there to create this backdrop and a bigger world to talk about real world problems in the end. And in this specific case, the reason I thought it's best to set that in a spaceship was to get it as far away from COVID, and on the one hand use this collective experience we had to kind of find a connection to a worldwide audience and to make it relevant and to share these thoughts. And on the other hand, not make it about COVID and not about pandemics itself, but rather about what is a life worth living? How do we decide things in life? Where do we stop thinking about our safety and start taking risks for our freedoms as well? And it really felt like this is the perfect surrounding to pinpoint that and to reduce it to the minimum of a mother-son relationship with a father who's not present, and to not have the whole society in that mix, but really talk about the basic underlying emotions and feelings that are in there, the questions that are being posed.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So this is a student film, of course, right? And so yourself and Jonas are in the same film school, are you? Yeah. So Jonas, like, what was it about like this film that made you want to work on this one specifically?
Yeah, Niels and I, we met at film school. So when he first pitched me the project, I was amazed by the concept of, setting this coming of age drama in space, because it elevates the drama so much when using the genre of sci-fi, because it's more contained. So that was my first thought, and I was amazed by the idea, and then thought, okay, this is quite ambitious for a short. And then the whole process started, to convincing partners, and we were happy to attach so many partners, like Ari, for example, who really helped us through the whole process of producing this. I'm super happy that this is such a huge team effort, and so many people, gave a real lot for this movie and to make this happen and to make things happen here. We always have to find our creative ways of working around, because we did not have the budget to, that we say, okay, we can afford this, we can afford that. Mine's never like that, but here especially it was important to find creative ways to work around. So just to give you an insight, we could not afford a proper stage. We have to rent an old hall that was before used by the wastewater management. So smell was kind of an issue during the shooting. But yeah, that was, our way of working around and to make things happen here. So and now it's a great honor to be shortlisted among these other great filmmakers.
Right. Well, congratulations. Yeah, great to be there. So, right, before I go to the cast, I see Film Business has a question here, and they were just asking about the casting process. So before we get to the cast, Niels, do you want to tell us a little bit about the process of casting it? Were you already familiar with the cast?
So we were very, very happy and lucky to get this cast we had on the film, because especially Susanne and Stefan, they are quite renowned actors in Germany. So basically the casting process here was writing a love letter and asking them if they want to be on board and this project, because
please do my film.
Did incredible projects before, and for Susanne especially, there was this film named Stücks, which won a German Film Award, where she already played kind of a role of a very multi-layered character that was really fighting on her own. And for me, it was important in casting the mother in the story to not just have a mother there, but an independent woman and someone who has normally a very own life going on, and now has to be that mother as well, which sparks conflict, because she is not used to this everyday feelings of a teenager, want to be in love and running the world and whatever, but she's more like this scientist, rational and so on. And Stefan played also in the series Dark, which might be known in the US. So it was great also having him on board.
Right. Yeah, Dark. Is that what you said? Yeah, on Netflix. Yes, yeah. I know Stefan from that. And Sticks is great as well, yeah. So Susanne, so you get this love letter from Niels, right? And what was it that drew you to the project, that got you interested in this and made you say yes?
Yes, it was love letter as well. So it was very nice, this letter. And I was really interested in the story, or the relationship between a mother or a woman of my age and a young man of 16, 17, who is her son. And I'm very much in this kind of relationship according to family. So it's on one hand, it's a relationship between a man and a woman, so to say, but it's not the normal heterosexual relationship. But there is kind of love, there's kind of hate, there's kind of knowing each other and whatever, but on a different state of mind, or under different conditions. And this is what I'm really much interested in, whatever. So, and especially with a 17-year-old boy in that case. So it's different to play a mother-son relationship to a 17-year-old boy, or a child normally. And so this was the most important thing, and that it seems to be a very intimate play. I like this kind of working in an intimate way of, not that's a huge cast or whatever, mass scenes or so. And
Right.
the other hand was like being interested in flying in zero gravity. So I thought, let's go. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. How did you find that? I mean, did you find that a hindrance? Like, was it kind of hindering your performance, or did you allow it not to get in the way of the acting?
Well, I would say it's everything. It's very stupid, or it feels very stupid to hang on the sails and be pushed and you play. We are gorgeous, and it's so far away. Now it's Hollywood, but it's not. So, and on the other hand, it's very exciting because in the end, when I saw the film, I was completely amazed by the result. I can't believe it that it really worked.
Right.
So, especially the beginning scene with Jeremias, when the camera turns and you can see him lying on his back, so to say, in the air. It's
right.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's one of the questions here from Jenny Kermode. Right. She was asking about. It says most short films, are made on low budgets. If that was the case for you, how did you go about creating the environment and space and simulating the weightlessness of the zero gravity? And that, do you want to talk about that, Niels, or George, or how did you do that? Because it looks very convincing, and that's a big part of what sells the film, right?
George, do you want to go?
Yeah,
so George, right? Yeah, you're the DOP. So tell us how you kind of went about it. Yeah. Sure, it looks great, and I'm totally convinced by it as well. The zero gravity looks brilliant.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear. We tested a lot in beforehand, and I would say that like most of the part with the most convincing stuff was really having the actors doing a really good job of just going like this and just mimicking everything. And then on the other hand, having a stabilized camera system on a Steadicam arm and then operating it remotely so that everything was floating. So little things where you had to fake the weightlessness with the body movement, we could enhance with the camera movement. So we tried to. So because all like this technical stuff of having the actors on wires with harnesses. Everything takes a lot of time, and also there's a lot of different angles you have to avoid. Otherwise, you would see the wires and would be crossing the face and stuff like this. And also, we couldn't afford too many of the wire removals, so we had to fake a lot.
Right, you had to remove those in post, right? So I imagine that's quite time-consuming, isn't it? Like to go frame by frame, right?
We had very limited days of like the stunt crew. And also even like Jeremias, when he's like putting stuff from his booth to take to Earth in the beginning, in the prologue, we were just so amazed when I was following him around with this gimbal system and everyone looking at the monitor and was like, okay, this guy is flying. So yeah, that's a huge shout out to the actors for mimicking.
Really great. No, it seems very polished. Like, so yeah, congratulations. And it looks great, Right, so Jeremiah, right. Tell us what it was like for you working on this. Tell us as well. Tell us a little bit about your character as well, and what's going through his head in this kind of dilemma.
Yeah. I also want to say something about the day of shooting Georg mentioned, because it was actually great fun, because we had to learn how to move as if we would float when in fact we were just standing. and it looked really bad in the beginning. So we had to put like a lot of work in it. I remember that I kept on sending daily updates to Niels, and on that day, it was the day where Jacob was cleaning his room. We were basically like, it was some weird way of dancing together because we couldn't use the rigging because of like there was not enough space. And so Georg and I did like a weird dance. And for me, it was basically like a really long squat. And he had like all these kilos of camera equipment on his back. So it was really, really exhausting. But in the end, I mean, I'm just really grateful that to have been part of these experiments because we didn't know if it would work. Like,
when you say you were sending daily updates, I mean you were doing like little tests every like over the course of the rehearsal period, right? Are you using wire or how are you trying to simulate the zero gravity?
It's more like because there's logic behind all movement in space, of course. It was just trying to mimic it without using anything. And
okay, right,
yeah,
right. Like when you press off a wall, and right. So, like, tell me a bit about your character, and how were you able to relate to a character like that? Have you got a mother who's like overly concerned about you, and have you had conversations like this with your own mother?
No, I didn't. My parents are actually quite. I mean, like, I think in the beginning, the isolation got me. Because, I mean, we all experienced some sort of isolation during the last years. And we just came out of a lockdown when we started shooting. And I was so afraid of jeopardizing the shooting that I stayed in isolation during the whole time. Like, my friends and my family started meeting again. And it was pretty, like, it was hard. So I guess that made it way easier to empathize with Jacob in the beginning. And then he's just like a young guy who desires to become independent and self-determined. I mean, what I liked about the script is that he comes closer to his wish when he decides to stay with his mother in the end.
Right. Yeah. It's an interesting dilemma. Lovely connection between you and your mother. I think on screen, and did you also feel that off screen? Did you have much time to work together with Susanna and Stefan, or was there a rehearsal period, or you went straight into it?
No, we had like I think we had many days where we were like talking. And also, like, we rehearsed before. But I remember one day, the day we shot the scene where Jacob is doing his first steps, when Susanna came to me just shortly before we started the first take. And she was like, she suggested that we should turn or spin in circles before the shot, before the take, because most astronauts experience like strong balance disturbances or like vertigo when they re-enter gravitation. And so we did that before the take. Like, it was great, it worked. And but the thing is that we had like, it worked so well that we did it for every take. And so after 10 minutes, we were like both so dizzy that we crashed into a shelf, and set design wasn't too happy about it. But that's a great story about how we were working together, and it was great fun. And yeah.
Right. Okay. So Stefan, great to have you with us. Like, we know you from Dark, of course, right, which is on Netflix. Like, I think it's probably worldwide. Like, I've been watching it here, and it's great. So nice to meet you. So you play the father of this kid. And what I find interesting about it is that each of the characters has a different outlook. You all have a slightly different perspective and take on it. Because like the dad is kind of maybe more on the son's side in the film, but you also still feel a very nice connection. So tell us just a bit about your character and kind of what's going through your head as the character, and also how you approached that.
Thank you for having me. And well, the answer why I'm in this piece is, of course, very easy, because it was a great script. And that's what it was. And if you read it, and if you're clever enough to know that it's a good script, you say yes. And that's on the one hand. On the other hand, I like to work with students in a way, because it's a great working with people, doing their first steps. And then I loved the setting. I loved the setting in space. I mean, I'm not in space in a way I am, in a way I'm not. I love this claustrophobic setting. I love the drama, the family drama. It's about parents knowing what's good for their son, or pretending to know what's good for their son. It's about letting go. It's about growing up and all this, and dysfunctional family. And the setting is, like reducing everything to a point where it hurts. And of course, my character has a great longing for his son, because he didn't see him for, I don't know, what is it, 2 years? About 2 years. Just, teleporting himself up there, which is probably not a nice experience to have. But so he stands in between making a good decision for his son and his emotions having him back. So this I liked to play.
Yeah, very interesting. No, I mean, you do, you definitely get that sense of connection between you and the son, and then there's moments where you're talking to Susanna's character directly, and I think actually the decision to use you as a hologram was very clever, because there's moments where you kind of reach out and it feels like you're almost there in the room, as opposed to just looking at you on a screen. So Nils, do you want to talk a bit about that? I mean, was that a decision that you had made? I mean, because it's the future, so you can kind of you use anything, right? But I thought the idea of a hologram was really interesting. It makes Stefan's character feel like he's right there.
Yeah, I'd say that the hologram is really one of the things that pinpoint this idea that if we go to space and use that sci-fi genre, we are using everything of that in order to elevate the emotion and the drama, and to give a face to this situation of being, as you said, almost there, and of this, the father feels nearly as strong a character as the mother in this thing, until the moment he's being switched off and he's not there anymore. And this kind of story idea to say it's a person that feels very close, literally, in that spaceship, and it's a difference from what he experienced 2 years before, where he couldn't have that kind of conversation with his father, kind of was there to elevate this idea that this story is happening at a moment where pretty much everything is on the table, and he can almost touch Earth, and he can almost touch his father, and he can almost hear the birds, and he's almost there, but in fact he's not. There's a big gap between him and down there, and if he decides to go down, he can't go back, and if he goes back, he can't go down. And this is literally a crossroad in his life. Whatever he decides to do will have these consequences that are non-reversible, and he's very close to both options, but can't see the future.
Right. Yeah. So no, it's very, very interesting kind of a setting. Yeah, to play out this drama. I think and I mean, really, that's what it is. It's a drama, against the backdrop of all of this. So there's lots of questions.
I didn't so much. I mean, we wrote those scenes where father and son see the first time in months, but I never anticipated how emotional that can be, at least in my, as it felt for me, even standing on set with the both of them, it was such a big moment where you really felt that Jeremias had this feeling of having been away for 2 years, and Stefan was in that feeling, and it really felt like, okay, this is what it feels like when you, after 2 years, you see each other in that format, as well, other scenes where Susanna was playing with Jeremias, and I had the feeling, okay, these two actors found this idea or pinpointed what it must feel like to be in space on such a small room for 2 years and still be a mother and a son, but maybe a bit too close. And on the other hand, distanced, because you have to save yourself from going crazy, because you can't come too close to the other person.
Yeah. I mean, like, so there was. I thought that was quite interesting. There's a conversation between Stefan and Susanna's character, where he kind of drops it. It's quite a shock to you, where he says that that he told me that he'd rather be back down here in his wheelchair in pain. Where I mean, there's a certain freedom, I suppose, isn't there, when he's up in space because there's zero gravity, so he can move more freely. And maybe the mother thought this was a help. So it was. I thought that was very interesting to kind of see how they both had a different point of view on that and a perspective, on that. That was a lovely performance as well because like Susanna's character, it felt quite crushing to you, when you hear that news. So yeah, it was lovely drama that played out in it. I presume that's one of the reasons that brought you to the project, was it? I mean, the drama between you and Stefan and yourself and Jeremiah is that part of what made you want to work on the film?
Yes, for me for sure. I just saw the film yesterday once again, and I was so surprised that I realized again, but not so clearly as the first time, that it's more drama than a science fiction. It's based on science fiction, or it's surrounded by science fiction, but it's so there's so much tender, especially between the young girl and the boy in the beginning, and also in the spaceship, and because it's so reduced, everything is so reduced. There's no each thing you can see in the film is is useful, and it's not like we can show you all the books, or we can show you all the buttons we need and we don't need, just to show you it's expensive or it's important or something. And this is something which really got me when I saw the film yesterday again, that everything is reduced and so clear and so, in a way, very, very beautiful, because it's so, there's so much love in it. And I have to admit, I wasn't sure if we or Niels is able to show this. So I was thinking, or I thought it would be more science fiction than a drama. And right now I would say it's much more drama than science fiction.
Yeah, that's what I felt as well. I mean, I thought there was lovely drama in it, but also a nice ambiguous conflict going on, where it's kind of asked the audience, what would you do, and you really have to think about it, because it's not an easy decision. I mean, you're like which is worse, like, when you have to weigh it up. There's a certain freedom that he has, in space, but then there's a danger back on Earth. So yeah, I thought it was really played out really nicely, and lovely subtle performances by all of the cast. So well done. So I better get to some of these questions. Right, there's lots of questions from journalists here. So Cinerama magazine asks, they said, the film looks like a big budget blockbuster. How did you achieve such a polished film on the budget you had? So Jonas, do you want to talk a bit about that? I mean, what was the budget for the film? I mean, you don't have to tell us if you don't want to, but it looks really polished, and it's certainly doesn't look like a student film. It looks like a very polished blockbuster. So yeah, was that one of the biggest challenges for you?
Well, first of all, thank you. That's that's lovely to hear. I think it was kind of a challenge, as I said in the beginning, because the project was ambitious, and it was the second thought I had on this project. Say, okay, that's kind of a challenge to realize. And how did we do that? Certainly not with money. As I said, it was always finding creative ways of working around. So what do we really need? I don't know who could probably help us. And we were very happy, and I'm super grateful that we were able to attach such great partners like Ari, who helped us along the whole process. And as I said, we could not afford a proper stage. Then we rented an old hall and tried to build our own stage. So there was ways of working around the budget. And I'm super happy that Niels and Georg as well always were open-minded to discuss every decision again and again. And then we try to find a solution together. Okay, that fits the budget somehow, but it also fits the creative vision, and we don't lose the creative vision because it was important to all of us working on this one. So there was no decision we could easily solve with just spending money on it. We have to think about everything twice, I would say. So yeah, that's how we achieved that, and it's great to hear that.
Well, no, nice. A lot of work, like a lot of skill and everything went into it, but it does pay off. It does feel very polished. It's great. I was surprised when I saw it was a student film, and of course it won the Academy Award, the Student Academy Award, didn't it? Right. So yeah, tell us a bit about that. What was that like, Niels? I mean, that must have been a huge moment for the film, right?
Yeah, sure. One thing to add, maybe like to your question, why it looks so polished, I think like big props go out to Georg and the visual effects person, Lukas Fett, who like both worked endlessly together, like 2 years, sometimes together with me, sometimes they were meeting, and we pre-visualized a lot of things and did a lot of trial and error. Like with Georg, we used this 3D model of the spaceship the production designer had made to really find each and every angle in that spaceship and do every shot beforehand, because otherwise it wouldn't have fit the shooting schedule, and it wouldn't have, like, we had to know where to take off a ceiling, then we had to calculate, is it possible and do we have enough time to do that on that shooting day? So it was really negotiating with all departments based on all those ideas Georg together with me, sometimes alone, came up to make this thing happen. And like also with the hologram, we figured out, okay, we need 3 shots to make the people believe that there's an actual hologram there, and the rest can be done easier. Or we need 10 shots to make the suspension of disbelief for the zero gravity. The rest we can fake and do much more on the time schedule. And I have been working with Georg like for 8 years now, almost since the beginning of film school. And during that time, it's amazing to talk with him and make things happen, develop these ideas, keep on pushing, then being very practical again, and finding very exotic ideas, and to develop this language where it's not just about covering the script in the end, but really have some poetic moments in there. And those moments you can't put into words or into acting. And it has been a very long process. And as well, like Lukas Fett, the visual effects guy, who pretty much did everything of the visual effects on his own, locking himself into a room for 1.5 years. And this is some of the reasons it was.
Right, it took that long, did it, in post, was it? Right. Yeah. About 1.5 years, was it?
Yeah. And then maybe coming back to your other question about the Student Academy Award, like after this long process where everything was like very small, tiny steps we did like lists of what has to be done and has priorities and visual effects, what can we afford and what not. There was a lot of struggle doing certain things. We had to re-edit stuff because the zero gravity didn't work here and there. And then in the end, come out of this and being honored so much by the Academy voters, by the audience, by the press, by people asking like about the story, and really conveying to us that to them there was the story and the characters first, and then came the technical part, which also looked polished. That's a great feeling here after all this work, where we sometimes weren't certain it all will work out, or the time will be enough, or what we can do will be enough to do it. And I can just thank everybody in the team and supporting this, that they kept on believing in this project, because it wasn't always easy. And it's very humbling to be here at this moment now in front of the Academy, in front of the voters who all know how films are being done and can really judge it. And they don't have to like it, but there are people who like it. And I'm very thankful for every person that's touched by the film.
Yeah, so that's a question here actually by Just Celeb magazine. What do you think makes audiences connect with the film? And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit there. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Niels?
I mean, I think everyone connects very individually, and that was also the goal here to have such a broad kind of happening in a way, and also specific, that people can connect from various directions and are not forced to have lived exactly through the same situation. And in my view, it's on the one hand that we all have gone through COVID in one way or another and had to ask ourselves kind of these questions about how do we protect family, what do we want for ourselves, where do we put ourselves first, where others. Parents were discussing or arguing with their children, and it can be very individual because this is the situation. And another thing that's, I think, very universal is this idea of like growing up and fighting with your parents about the right moment where you can make your own life decisions. And the idea was to combine these two in order to talk about this very grand question we have to pose to ourselves a billion times in life. Like, risk it or do I stay safe? And it can be a job. It can be so many things. And the idea was to break it down to these core elements of human interaction and belonging and love and these things.
Right. Yeah. There's a very human story there, so I can see why audiences are connecting with it as they are. And you're not necessarily expecting that from a sci-fi, I think. Actually, there's a question here. It's Jenny Kermode says science fiction and genre films more generally, rarely get much attention at the Oscars. Does that make you, more excited to be shortlisted, or do you feel that attributes are beginning to, change more broadly? The fact that this is a sci-fi film and that it's unusual to have that attention from the Academy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like pretty happy that the concept worked and the people are seeing that drama there, because for the next projects we are planning, these are also genre films with an emotional core. I'm pitching together with Jonas and his production company, because like we did this film and think we can do the next one. And it's very, I mean, it's, as I said, it's humbling in a way, but also gives you a lot of power or self-confidence to really tell people that you would like to tell a horror film that's coming of age and has an emotional core and all these things, to say that we are confident that genre and drama can meet at a relevant point for audiences that are not just interested in the genre, but want to see something that's human or touches them or that feels relevant and that they feel they can connect with. So it feels, coming from this student background and all of a sudden standing in front of the Academy, it feels like this opportunity to at least tell the people, this is another story I'd like to tell. And it has those core elements we're using at Almost Home, but more than that, it's different as well. And it's another story.
Right. Good. Okay. Looking forward to that. So Jeremiah, right, there's a question here actually that I think you're probably, the most suited to answer. And it's from Jenny Kermode again. She says, it's rare to see chronologically ill people centered in film. So did you have any personal experience to draw on where that was concerned? And, did you do much research into that? I mean, into the disability your character has in the film?
Yes, we did research, and it started with Niels asking me already for the audition to think about Jacob's disease, which mainly causes pain and stiffens his joints. So I remember, it sounds stupid, but I remember starting to tape my joints, and when that felt like still too mobile, I taped a broomstick. It was the first stage. I taped a broomstick from my back to my right ankle, and I did that while lying on the floor. So the first real thing I found out was that I couldn't stand up anymore, and I had to call for my roommate. And you can imagine how she looked at me when she found me. And later on, we were like talking with experts and decided on an orthosis, which I was wearing on my right knee, and which limited my mobility severely. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So her next question was, how was the film influenced by, your own experience or isolation during COVID? I mean, did that help you with your character at all?
Yes, it did. I mean, I wasn't living in Munich, and I had to cross the border before I came to Munich in order to prepare and stuff. So because I crossed the border, I had to isolate for 2 weeks completely alone, and I was alone with the script. So, of course, all the feelings and the emotions which came up because I couldn't see a person influenced my view on the script and my entire connection to Jacob, who really needs to he needs friends like everybody does. And people to touch and something, and I guess of course it was influenced by the situation.
Okay, so Niels, what would you hope for audiences to take away from the film? After watching it, what would you like them to be left with and to feel? Do you think there's a message there or something that you'd like them to come away with?
Yeah, I tend to say, because like our goal was not to give answers, but to pose questions about these things, that the takeaway is that life isn't easy and takes a lot of various paths. And the only solution to emotionally survive is that we kind of start trusting in each other and connect with each other and find each other as the support to go through these things, because like life is not predictable. And like, I think the pandemic has taught so many of us that it can take very cruel turns, maybe through losing a relative or being stuck at home or having to give up your dream of this and that, or to having to postpone it. And I think we should really go back to this notion that in the end, it's we as people helping each other going through these things and sticking together and being strong as a society, but also as families or friends or whatever constellation. It doesn't have to be the classical ones.
Okay, so there's one question here just for Susanna that just came in. I see from Nani Cardenas. Yeah. So she asked, how much of yourself do you find in your character, Susanna?
How I found into my character? Excuse me.
How much of yourself would you find in your character? I mean, were you able to relate to your character as your mother, like from your own experiences, or how far away was the character from who you are?
Like Niels mentioned in the beginnings, it also reminded me of a character I already played in Stux. So, and it was also a combination of so to say two professionals in one person. And Stux she's a sailor and she's also a doctor. And in that case, I would say she's a mother and she's a scientist. So I think the biggest challenge for me was to load up the sentences, which were mostly technical, according to the situation of on the Earth or in the spaceship, or according the state of illness of Jacob. To fill up with emotions, but not to be too concerned in order to not to, how do you say, to disconcert my son. So it reminded me on the character of Stux. So the other director forced me to stay calm, and I can remember that it was more or less also a topic where a discussion with Niels or between us. But I would like to add something else which just came up to my head when I was listening to the answer of Niels. What do we want people to go home with what kind of thought? And I was thinking, according to this time we have been through now, everybody of us, is the different perspective of time. You flipped, no, just changed the position. So the different perspective of time. So because when I watched the film yesterday, I just realized for me, as the mother, being, I don't know, 45 or 50, 2 years are different than 2 years to my son. So he just fell in love, and he has to, I think he has to believe that the girl is waiting for him, that this relationship, which is still in the beginning, will last maybe for 2 years. And also the father who's waiting for 2 years, now 2 years more. So all these different perspectives now. And when I look out and talk to people, so 2 years can be 10 years, and for another person it's just half a year. You know what I mean? This came up to my heart when I was listening. What you can also see in this film.
Well, congratulations. I thought it was like really beautiful performances, like from all of the cast, you know, what an achievement, like to be able to make that as a student film, and it's so polished, you know, it's remarkable really what you've been able to do with it. You know, but I think overall, you know, it's a film, you know, with, you know, lovely themes and characters all set against this backdrop, you know, which is really quite timely, and you know, audiences are obviously relating to it and connecting with it, you know. So I wish you the very best of luck with it. It's been really great having you and talking to you all, and thanks to all the journalists as well for joining us. I really enjoyed chatting with you all. Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Yeah, and best of luck.